Unschuldig zu Tode verurteilt. Das kann man sich eigentlich gar nicht vorstellen. Und doch wird immer wieder von genau solchen Fällen berichtet. Laut Amnesty International wurden seit der Wiedereinführung der Todesstrafe in 1976 in den USA insgesamt 139 Personen nach mehreren Jahren im Todestrakt wieder freigesprochen. Einer von ihnen ist Joaquín José Martínez. 1997 wurde der damals 25-jährige spanische Staatsbürger in Florida zu Tode verurteilt. Unschuldig. Heute hält er mit Unterstützung der christlichen Gemeinde St. Egidio, die sich schon seit längerem mit dem Thema auseinandersetzt, Vorträge an Schulen weltweit und klärt über die Todesstrafe auf. Doch wie konnte es überhaupt so weit kommen? Uns war es möglich, mit ihm ein Interview zu führen.
I was sentenced to death in the United States of America for a double homicide I did not commit. I became the first Spaniard and the first European to be released from death row in 2001 after spending close to 3 years on death row and 5.5 years total. I was fortunate enough to have the support of many people in Europe, organizations, media groups, and really governmental help that made it possible for me to get a new trial and come back home. I was charged with a double homicide. I was accused of killing two people. It was a young couple. Basically, due to the testimony of my ex-wife, I was going through a very difficult divorce because we had two siblings, two young girls in common, and it was quite difficult. We both wanted custody of our daughters, and it became really, really nasty, to the point where my ex-wife, throughout this time frame when these two people were murdered, called the police department and said to them that it may be possible that I had something to do with those murders. Never directly saying I had confessed to her, or never directly saying I had spoken to her about this crime. As a result, the police department came to her home and on a Sunday afternoon recorded what they said was a confession from my behalf, confessing to this crime. There was no confession, obviously, and this was, we were able to prove that in a second trial, but it was necessary for the police department to close this case as soon as possible. The young man that had been murdered was the son of a very important police officer in the city of Tampa, Florida. Apart from the fact that this young man was a drug dealer, his father was the head of the evidence department. So you can imagine there was a lot of corruption and other matters taking place with the police department. I tried to put that all aside, and forget about everything that had happened. She asked me for forgiveness. I forgave her, but nevertheless, she's made my life really, really difficult. Not just with the phone call and declaring on the first trial on behalf of the state against me.
Could you just outline your whole lawsuit?
I must say that it was really my fault in the way I handled things. I'm not the typical death row inmate you will hear about. I come from a good home, good family, good education. When I was arrested, I was able to hire the best attorney in Florida if I wanted to. But I chose to keep my personal attorney, and I believed in him. More than believing in him, I believed in the system. In America, you don't sentence innocent people to death row or to prison. So I really believed in the system, and I let myself go in not hiring a good attorney. I kept my personal attorney, who had no idea about these type of cases. And obviously I lost. And I ended up on death row with very little evidence to prove that I had committed this crime, and just inaudible recording and the testimony of my ex-wife. So today we have a little bit more guarantees as to the to judicial process. Back then, there were no guarantees. It was 9 out of 10. You were sentenced to death. It didn't matter if you were innocent or what the case was.
Before you were caused guilty, were you pro the death penalty?
Yeah, I believed in the death penalty. I would want the law to be able to handle this case, and the law is the law, and the law stated that if you commit a crime that is cruel, heinous, atrocious, if you kill a person the way these two people were murdered, then the person or persons responsible for this murder deserve the death penalty. Back then, there was really no debate about pro-death penalty or pro-life in prison. Yeah, I believed in the death penalty, and I'm not proud of saying it, but it's the way I used to think back then.
So you just said that many people believed in it. Do you think that changed in the last years? Are there more people who criticize the system?
Yes. Well, as a result of all these, not just my case, a lot of cases came up where there was a lot of prosecutorial misconduct, police misconduct, lack of evidence, falsified documentation, witness. I mean, so many things that were taking place that we saw more and more cases of innocent people being sentenced to death, where people are actually beginning to question if the system was as perfect as we were led to believe. I truly believed the system was perfect. I truly believe that no innocent person would ever end up in prison, even less on death row. So with time and with everything that we see, with all the changes and with everything going on, things are changing now, and I truly believe that there is a growing, tendency to, if not end the death penalty, give a second option, such as life in prison. So, in many ways, I'm thankful for that, and I hope it goes even further, and we can abolish the death penalty soon in the States. Basically, what changed my opinion was meeting people on death row. I had an idea about death row inmates where I used to really believe and think that they were the worst in society, that they deserved to be punished, that they didn't deserve to live. That was the way I used to think. When I arrived on death row, I saw a human side in these people that became my friends, to be honest with you, that were there when I needed them the most. And I saw that human side that, they too were victims in many ways, and their families were victims in many ways. Whereas, their children, their parents, they all suffered. Apart from that, meeting and coming across innocent people really, really changed my idea towards the death penalty. In particular, a man, his name was Frank Lee Smith. He was awesome friend on death row. He was sentenced to death for 19 years. And, he spent 19 years asking for DNA testing to be performed, and it was never performed. He died of cancer. He died alone. And a year after his death, it was proven that the man was innocent. He shouldn't be allowed. He was a Black African-American. He was big guy, really big. I mean, he reminded me of, if anyone ever seen this movie, The Green Mile, it's John Coffey type looking, big guy. And I remember he was a great friend. He had lost a lot of sanity on death row. He went crazy. A lot of years on death row make you go crazy. Unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to prove his innocence. The worst part about it is being innocent. Sad.
So you had the possibility to get a second lawsuit. Your friend, he didn't get this chance. Do you think he was treated differently because of the racist system?
Yeah. I think that all Hispanic, Black African Americans, it's a fact. We can't hide that anymore. We can't say, well, no, they're all treated the same. No, it's a fact that the minorities are not treated the same way. They have a lot of problems getting a good team of attorneys, not to mention one attorney. Um, I was very, very fortunate to have the support I received, to have the attorneys I had in my second trial, and to have my parents there by my side. I think that's everything. That's what made it possible for me to be here today.
What about your friends? Did they believe you, or were they like, okay, the law said he's guilty, so he must be guilty?
Well, my friends on death row, the new ones that I met, they believed me. They I don't know how, but they said, you shouldn't be here. And that meant a lot to me. That I had their respect and their belief. Frank Lee Smith was one of them. He would always tell me, Joe, when you go home, you take me with you. Those memories, looking back, and just it's amazing. Those guys on death row really, really became good friends of mine, almost like a family. I have no friends from before, and I put them all aside. I didn't want anything to do with them. They basically abandoned me when I was arrested. I had many friends, or I thought were friends, people that I would go to VIP places, VIP night places, and everywhere I would go. And when I got arrested, they basically told me that they didn't want me calling their business numbers, because they didn't want to have anything to do with someone that's in prison or going to death row. I have new friends, those I met on death row, and those I've made after death row.
So while you were in death row, did you realize that you would probably die, or was it surreal?
When I first got in there, the only thought that came to my mind was, these people have sentenced an innocent man to death row. These people are going to kill this man. And I really thought in the beginning that I had no chance. I was kind of blocked by emotions, by sensations, didn't know what to think, what to say, because I felt so betrayed by everyone to begin with, including God, including the system I had trusted, that I guess I lost hope. I lost my faith. I thought that would be the end. I thought that one day they would come sign my signature, my death warrant, and execute me. So I lost hope.
What was the most traumatizing thing that happened to you during this period?
The most was having lost my friend, Frank Smith, when they would beat him because he would wake up in the middle of the night screaming. And he would say, "I'm innocent, get me out of here." And he would start screaming. He would grab the bars and start shaking the bars. And we would all tell him to not make so much noise, because the guards would come down. And he would continue, and the guards would come down and open the gate, and they would beat him. I guess the most traumatizing thing was reliving those moments, those beatings. In particular, the last beating, where I didn't get a chance to see him again till a year later, when I was going back home for a new trial. I ran into him at the infirmary, and it had been a year since they took him out of that cell. And I saw him again that time, and he wasn't this big guy I met. He had lost a lot of weight, and he was dying of cancer. That really impacted me a lot, to see this man there like that. At that point, I didn't know he was innocent or not. I just knew that there was a person laying there on a hospital bed, suffering, and not being attended, and not being treated like a person. That was the worst experience I lived on death row.
Do you still have a trauma, and do you need like a therapist?
Yes and no. I have nightmares. I still dream about being on death row or in jail, in prison. Not every day, but at least once a week. I have these dreams where I'm still in prison, and I'm trying to do everything possible to come home, but it doesn't happen. I guess the dreams are horrible. That's the worst. But at my home, just so you have an idea, I have no light bulbs to remind me of death row, to remind me of the days of execution, when what we see sometimes on TV or in the news or in the documentaries, where we see that light bulb that when they execute someone flickers and shuts off and then turns back on, you know. I have no light bulbs. I only have LEDs in the house because, you know, more than one occasion when I went to turn on the light or something, it would burn out and it would remind me of being on death row. I don't want anything to remind me of what I went through. I think it was the worst nightmare I've ever had. It's a 4 by 4 feet by 4 feet. Basically, I could lay on my bed, reach out my hand, and touch the wall with the other wall on my side, touch the other wall, and basically between my hand, in the middle of my hand, where my elbow is, was the toilet. So that's the space that we had.
So you're doing a lot of speaks in Germany and Europe, and just to make people think about it and question even death penalty. So here in Germany, the death penalty is illegal anyway. But are you even allowed to do these speeches in the USA too?
Yeah, I speak quite often in the US and other countries that still have the death penalty. Morocco, for example, is one of them. I have no problem speaking in the US against the death penalty. I actually enjoy speaking to students and reaching out to them and letting them know that what they did to me was also done to many other people. It's an important fight to that we have to carry out, and that I'm going to keep carrying out.
After all of your experience, is there something you would say that you hope for the future to change? Because you criticize the system strongly. So is there anything?
Yeah. Well, I would really hope, and I really want to be able to think that in the United States of America, just as a beginning, we can abolish the death penalty. Well, it's taking place little by little. Since I was, since I was freed back in 2001, there's been about 4 or 5 states that have abolished the death penalty, questioned the death penalty, and it's just a matter of time. I really believe that before we can end the death penalty. I hope to see it happen in America, and I hope that opens the doors to many other people, many other countries doing the same.